Thank you to our sponsors for today's video, StarCharge, Nokian Tyres, and Amber. StarCharge is the largest EV charging manufacturer in the world and is also a provider of residential and commercial battery storage and microgrid solutions. This video is also brought to you by Nokian Tyres, a leader in safety and sustainability. Maximize performance and efficiency with their made-in-USA all-season tires and their dedicated Hakkapeliitta EV winter line from the inventor of the winter tire. Learn more at nokiantires.com/EV. This video is also brought to you by Amber. Amber offers a modern extended warranty for your Tesla's battery and more without the burden of long-term contracts or upfront payments. Check out the link in the description below to browse their plan options and get started with a free over-the-air diagnostic check. Hello, good evening, and welcome to another Out of Spec Reviews video, and welcome to another 10% challenge. What the heck is the 10% challenge? Well, this is where we simulate how good or bad of a road tripper a particular EV is. And then we're able to compare the results with other EVs that you might be cross-shopping. We're trying to run every electric car through this test, so stay tuned and bear with us as we get through all of the models because there's an increasing number. So essentially, this is really our single metric to determine if you should go on a road trip with your EV or just stay around town. To me, it's the most important metric. And well, today we have the old, I guess you could call it, Generation 1 Rivian R1S. But actually, it's the best possible spec for road tripping. The conditions are nearly perfect today, so we're gonna go out in the dual motor max pack 21-inch Rivian R1S for a 10% challenge. You joined me at a Rivian Adventure Network site here in Colorado, and it was just completely still, although we're getting just a small couple mile per hour, little bit of wind, but truly some of the best conditions for this test. And I really waited. I've had this Rivian for just about 3 weeks, actually just over 3 weeks from Rivian. And well, I've waited for perfect conditions, and it goes back tonight, and we got lucky with perfect conditions tonight. So I'll walk you through the procedures of the test and then a little bit about the car. We're still at 11% state of charge, running climate control to pull itself down to 10. So let's talk about the test. What we're gonna do is as soon as it dips down from 11 to 10%, we're gonna plug it in to a high-powered DC fast charger. Now, luckily, the Rivian Adventure Network site is right off of the toll road, about a mile that way. And so most of the chargers are all roughly a half a mile to a mile off the highway. So we'll get over to the ring road, and then we'll just go, after charging, up to 80 miles per hour. The whole point is to simulate a road trip in this test. So we're gonna plug in from 10% for 15 minutes, running full power with climate control on in the vehicle, again, simulating a typical highway road trip situation. And then we are going to drive 80 miles per hour until we dip back to 10%. Then we can look at the results. It's all pretty self-explanatory. We're on the 21-inch wheels. Tire pressures were set to 48 PSI when cold. That is the recommended. Will be just a little bit higher than that because they have some temperature in them now. But everything is set for the procedures. Best I can do it. So the car. We have just over 140 kilowatt hours of usable energy capacity. This one has about 5,000 miles on it, so it's just perfectly broken in. And it will really give us a good baseline when I start comparing this to the Generation 2 Rivians. And the Generation 2 Rivians, of course, use pretty much the same battery pack on the max pack size, but the standard and large batteries will be different from the Gen 1. So I can't wait to run the new, I guess, Gen 2 with the 22-inch aero wheels and compare it to this result. For perfect conditions, we'd run them both on the same day. Maybe we'll have that opportunity in the future, but for now, I wanted to log what the Gen 1 will be. This is, Rivian sold over 100,000, I believe, Generation 1 Rivians, and surprisingly, this is the first Rivian we've run in our road tripping test. I think it actually just shut off on us. I need to make sure. Nope, it's still running climate. Good. I need to pull it from 11 down to 10. So actually what we'll do to make this go a little bit quicker is we'll just rip on the heater, put on all loads, put on all of the headlights and fog lights, just run every resistive load we can find until we dip down to 10%. Then we'll cut all this, run normal climate control, So again, the whole point of this test is on a road trip. I don't like to spend more than 15 minutes at a charging station, but I like to charge fast and I like to drive fast and go a long distance in between. So the whole point here is the Rivian's going to be fairly inefficient, but we should have a pretty monster charging session with over 200 kilowatts being delivered to the R1S. Now, if it can just hold that and maintain it, everything should be good. One thing that's really important to note with Rivians, especially Gen 1, probably Gen 2, but I know at least for Gen 1s because they have that single plate cooling, is you want the temperature region of the battery pack to be perfect. You don't just want average battery pack to be a certain number. You don't want a big gradient difference across the cells. And I've noticed on road tripping in extreme cold or heat, whatever's underneath of the vehicle, like I guess the tops of the bottom cells, because it's bottom to bottom with a cooling plate, those will get either really hot or really cold, and the central cooling plate can't get to them. And so it might show your battery's not overheating as an average, but certain parts of it might be. And then Rivian also has a max gradient temperature differential to limit charging performance. What I've done to avoid all of that BS is get this car in the perfect state by letting it soak for the last 40 hours without driving. The battery pack should be at a very consistent temperature. I then preconditioned on the way here, and it brought the battery pack to about 78 degrees average battery pack temperature. That's exactly what we're looking for in that region. Without a big gradient difference across the battery pack and the average temperature being good, I'm expecting a monster charging session. We have now just dipped to 10% state of charge, 41 miles indicated. Again, this has a 400-mile EPA range. It's a bit like Tesla with the Max Pack, where it's actually hard to reach the range in this configuration, and that's because Rivian certified the Max Packs in a different drive cycle than they did their other vehicles, just to try and show the maximum range of them. I don't know how I really feel about that. Anyway, battery pack is perfectly temperature. Again, we don't have a big gradient differential as well, and I know that just because of the setup for this test. I really took my time, made sure that the vehicle sat here. I hope the cable can reach. Maybe I have to pull up a little bit, but let's see. We always count the handshake time, and then we charge for exactly 15 minutes. So let's see if this will reach over here. The answer is nope. Got to pull up a few inches. Once we start charging, just so you're aware, we will then turn on the climate control to 68 and auto and run climate while charging. We do that because any normal person would do that while they're on a road trip. So let's get this thing as close to that post as we can. There we go. Okay. And time to get this thing juicing. I really have no idea what to expect. 100 miles in this test is like minimum acceptability for a big road trip, I would say. That's what Model Y does. Model X, a competitor to this, does about 120 miles. So we're in. Let's see how this does. We're authorizing, counting the handshake, of course. I'm gonna start the stopwatch as soon as it kicks on and starts charging. There we go, starting. Vehicle hasn't gone green yet. It's just still doing cable check, so we're still handshaking. A long handshake for being a Rivian charger and a Rivian vehicle. It is doing ISO 15118 certificate exchange, because plug and charge is a thing with Rivians now. They're using their own certificate handler. Boom, green. Okay, I've just started the stopwatch, but that handshake was long. All right, now that we started charging, let's get climate on. Sometimes the Rivian will do weird things if you adjust climate mid-charging session, so I want to get to this before we start. So we're on 68 auto, just like you would on a road trip. Everything's set. I guess we don't need the rear vents. We'll just run the fronts. Perfect. And okay, we're good. We're up to 50 kilowatts, 60 kilowatts. I'm just going to raise our charging limit to 100. Looking forward to seeing a big peak speed here. I would like to see 212, 200 something kilowatts. There is a service menu that will give us more information as well. So if I come over here to service mode, tap the top bar 5 times, that will open up the ride app. 33748. You just tap that screen 5 times. We'll load up the nerd info for you guys. Still ramping up, a slow ramp here. Again, we are Let's see, how far into our session? 1 minute and 10 seconds. We still haven't reached 150 kilowatts yet. If I come over here to high voltage, you can see maximum cell temperature, a little bit warmer than I would like, actually. Oh no, that can't be right, can it? There we go. Maximum cell temperature, 27. There we go. I was like, what the heck? And you can see the maximum current of the charger says 500 amps available, and we're ramping up to get there on our way. Minute and 37 seconds. Sometimes the watch doesn't show. Either way, you can see you've joined on the clip. There we are, almost to 200 kilowatts. So Rivians are really hard to get to charge well because you need, yes, them cool. They really struggle with cooling power, first of all, with that central plate cooling and cells on top and bottom, and then cooling, you know, the edges of the cell, the one closest to the cab of the truck or SUV or the one closest to the street. They just can't get the cooling there. And then so they have a max limitation on gradient temperature. So you're just battling thermals all the time with these vehicles. And here we are, again, 500 amps, maximum 490 going into the battery pack. I'm sure the rest coming from climate control. Having 400 volts here at 12% state of charge under charging is really good. It's a high 400 volt pack. We like to see that. Of course, some packs are really low voltage and they require a ton of current to get high power. This actually doesn't. They like 500 amps, but they can charge fast. So just to show you the RAN display so you guys can see what's going on here. 12 minutes to go. I don't know what it's counting to, but all is good. It's ramping up. It's showing cost. 198 kilowatts being delivered right there. And I believe they show pricing on the screen now, just like they do with superchargers. Yes, so you can see if it will focus. Whoops, sorry about that. You can see that $2.53 and continuing up, showing on the screen. At first, Rivian launched that for superchargers and didn't even have it with their own charging network, but now that bug has been solved. Anyway, we're gonna let this charge for 15 minutes. The vehicle's running climate control still, no problems, and then we'll head out for the test. You can see we are now at 19% state of charge. We're about 6 minutes into our session, and we still have not hit 200 kilowatts. And in fact, it's really difficult on the max pack. You can see we're actually limiting. There's no way, you know, this is what the truck wants right now. The Charger is certainly giving everything it wants. Max pack, I think, actually charges worse than large pack. I did charge both of them side by side. I have to find the footage. I don't think we ever posted it, but I did a 0 to 100 test of max and large side by side. And the large pack is just more consistent. It just always goes over 200 kilowatts without problem. And sure, has a little bit less energy capacity. The large pack of the Gen 1s and the Max pack actually share the same battery pack, architecture, layout, cell count, everything. It's just a chemistry change. It's the Samsung 50G cell versus the 53G cell, both high nickel in terms of their construction, or I should say makeup. But yeah, like definitely here I'd be over 200 kilowatts in my vehicle. This thing just wants to hold 200. It doesn't want to go over. So it seems like Max Pack is more sensitive to high power charging than Large Pack, which means actually a Large Pack R1S may do better in this test. I actually have a Large Pack R1S at home right now. It's my loaner car for my R1T, but it's on the 20-inch all-terrains. And I think the 21s will make up that difference here, because this isn't terrible charging, but just something I wanted to note that I've seen, I don't know if I've actually ever seen 200 kilowatts on this Max Pack or on any Max Pack. I think I've seen just about 197, 198, not the 220 that I'm used to seeing in my Large Pack. You join me 11 minutes and 40 seconds into our charging session, and we just tapered. So we were holding roughly 200 kilowatts to about 31%. It just fell off a ledge there for some reason. I bet it's going to come up and recover. Again, it's all on the vehicle side. It's still holding 500 amps. I have noticed some surging behavior with Rivian, and Rivians do seem to have a boost profile where if I were to plug this in at 30 or even 40% state of charge, it will pull 500 amps at even higher pack voltage, because again, higher state of charge, and we might see over 200 kilowatts. But Max Pack, it is hard to see over 200 kilowatts on. And now we're sitting at about 160 kilowatts, and we have just a couple minutes left to go. Just weak charging. This is a 140 kilowatt hour battery pack. This thing should be doing 300 kilowatts plus. I mean, if a Taycan can do, I know that's a high power cell, a very expensive pouch cell, but Taycan, just as an example, costs less than this. This is a $100,000 truck. Taycans are what, 90 grand base? That has a 95 kilowatt hour, 95, mid 90 kilowatt hour usable battery pack. I just forget the numbers off the top of my head. And that'll do 320 kilowatts and hold 300 kilowatts to 60%. And here we are with a 140 kilowatt hour battery pack doing 159 kilowatts at 33%. And it's not the charger limiting. Charger still says 500 amps. Battery pack isn't overheating, but you know, we're only doing 375 amps because of the Rivian boost profile. Very similar to Ford and BMW, where if the lower you plug in, you know, you don't get that big voltage pull. Lighting just shut off randomly, not sure why, but all right, let's get ready to get unplugged and hit the road. But perfect conditions for this. I really could not do this any better with this particular one. Whoa, check this out. It just shot back up to 200 kilowatts. Why? I have no idea. This baffles me. It could just be that it needed a little bit warmer temperature to rip this hard at this state of charge, but Rivians do some weird stuff, let me tell you. And to be honest, these are perfect conditions following everything we would normally do, preconditioning the charger. We have another 5 seconds left to go before we have to stop the charging session. So let's go here, 58, 59, 15 minutes, stop. There we go, stopped the session. I can shut climate off while I take some time to evaluate. And damn, that is just weird performance. So notice some things like that on Max Pack. There's really no way around it. We had 44.9 kilowatt hours delivered, a big number, but again, a big vehicle, a big inefficient vehicle, even though this is the most efficient R1S Gen 1 you can get. We were here 15 minutes and 24 seconds. I think that counts the handshake time of 24 seconds, but 15 minutes of charging time. So there we go, close that up. Again, that surging behavior is not unusual. I've been driving this vehicle for thousands of miles now. That is what you get. You get some tapers, you get some pulses, you get some boost modes, you get some weird stuff. And a lot of it probably has to do with temperature control, especially, you know, with cells, they need a little bit warmer temperature the higher you go during charging. And it should take care of that during the preconditioning process. And it should, you know, expect a rise in temperature that is consistent with exterior temperature and other things. And if they don't plan for that in preconditioning, it can hurt you there. It's just a guess. I don't see any other reason why charging performance would pick up later. So a couple things we can do now is we can go to service and shut it off. Don't need that. We can go windows up. Don't need those. We can go to drive modes. And we can reset, let's see, trip B, boom, reset. We can turn it on. We're in low suspension. There is no efficiency mode with dual motor. So this is the lowest we can keep the car with the rear clutch disconnected. Again, a dual permanent magnet motor, but with the rear clutch disconnected, running on the primary axle. Being a dual motor Max Pack, this is a dual silicon carbide unit. The large packs only get the silicon carbide inverter on the front motor and then the IGBT silicon on the rear. It doesn't really affect it too much. So here we go. We should be good. All-purpose low, regen in high. That's fine. I'll drive around some things. Ride in soft. Trip reset. Climate on auto sync, but since it's actually just driver only, I can shut all the other vents off. That is per procedure. We will go most efficient settings for the vehicle. I'm on the newest software with the blind spot cameras. No time for delay. Let's hit the highway, get to 80 miles an hour, and see how well we do. We did charge to only 36%. But again, this is quite a large vehicle. We're gonna run just automatic lights. No need to burn extra energy with fogs. Let's head out on the highway. We have now left the charger and we are merging onto the tollway. You can see we're just getting on now. Gentle accelerations, just dipped from 36 to 35%. And now we are officially on full send road. So let's get up to 80 miles an hour. We're gonna set the driver assistance right up there to 80. And technically 81 indicated here, if I can get the camera to focus, will be 80 GPS verified. So we're basically just gonna cruise and we're gonna go to roughly halfway, turn around. When we turn around, I'm going to then program in the RAN station to where we started and have the Rivian preconditioned to that charger. It is part of the procedures, and most of the time with Rivian's high nickel battery packs, so their NCA or NCM packs, they will precondition by cooling the battery pack down because they're always a little bit over temperature. But the thing is, after multiple rapid charging stops, especially again if it's extremely cold or hot, that temperature differential across the battery pack gets so big that on a road trip, you actually do get degraded charging performance after multiple charging stops. It's a very unusual situation for electric cars to see a vehicle that's so competent in so many areas, such as driving fun and software integration is amazing, and looks and build quality and off-road performance really struggle in this one area of battery pack thermals. And I'm not totally convinced Gen 2 solves a lot of it. I think with the standard LFP battery pack they have, at least is what Rivian tells me, but I think these same issues, because of that central plate cooling, carry over to Gen 2. We'll have to see, and if so, I think that's a real shame. Can't wait to test the Generation 2 Rivians because as a Rivian owner, I love everything about my truck. That's the best vehicle I've ever owned. They're so high quality. They have the right look, the right feel. Everything about them I just love, except charging performance and battery pack thermals. These are its main weak points for me at this point, and I just wish they were improved. So let's see how it does in this test. You can see our battery pack average temperature got up there to 105, but that's still not too warm, to be honest. That's totally normal operating condition, like high 30 degrees Celsius range, maybe just touching 40, something like that. And you can see we're just running front wheel drive, and that is a dual motor benefit. It has an automatic clutch disconnect, whereas if I was to give it a huge whack of throttle, it will actually go up to full rip on the rear axle. And this is where having a dual silicon carbide inverter doesn't really help us too much in the Max Pack, and because we're only using the front motor, so the efficiency would be pretty much identical to the large pack. Again, same weight, same battery pack, everything's identical. It's just a chemistry change, and we're just using the identical silicon carbide Enduro front unit. And so the large pack having IGBT in the rear is not that big of a deal on the Gen 1s, in my opinion. So yeah, that's a real power motor in the rear. It's when you give it a lot of beans, you want that rear motor. I guess under towing, the difference could be bigger, because in tow mode, they keep both motors engaged. That's where Max Pack might become slightly handy, but then I think the charging performance is not great. So I don't know. Hard to really pick a winner between large and Max Pack, in my opinion, on the Gen 1 Rivians. I really hope there's some secret improvements to Gen 2 ahead of our testing. My fingers are crossed. So what's interesting is Francie is doing a 10% challenge in the VinFast VF8 at the same time, and we should be passing each other right about now based on our calculations. So I'm going to keep my eye in the left-ish lane and see if I see a giant V on the front of a car. None of those there. Okay, let's keep an eyes peeled. Is that it? No. It has a very unique lighting signature on the VinFast. So where is she? Oh, that was her right there. There it is, the VinFast. Cool. Perfect conditions for this, honestly. 75 degrees, literally no wind, just running, no issues. This is awesome. We are cruising along, still moving nicely. We are at 27% state of charge, and this road has just been repaved. It's bumpy because when you lower, Rivian suspension does not get very smooth, but this is awesome. And it actually looks like, oh, new pavement just ended there. Anyway, that was an awesome stretch of new pavement, just super silky smooth. This isn't bad either, to be honest. So yeah, we're getting close to our turnaround point. Whoa, it's so bumpy when you lower the suspension in a Rivian. So we're gonna aim to turn around 23% state of charge, and that should be ideal to get us back as close to the charger as possible at 10%. Now we should have a little bit worse efficiency on the return. Right now we're getting just over 2 miles per kilowatt hour, And yeah, we'll get to the turnaround point just up ahead. I do just want to make a point and clarification. Apparently I've run 2 Rivians, 2 R1Ts in the 10% challenge. Totally forgot, but I did a large and max pack, both of which came in at 89 miles, I believe. So I'm expecting something similar, maybe slightly less. R1S is always a little bit less efficient than R1T, surprisingly. It is time to kick it off, cruise control, and take the next exit. We're at 24% state of charge, which is almost perfect at that 23 number. And again, I think we're gonna have slight headwind on the way back, nothing crazy. And yeah, should be good. Oh, the exit's a little bit farther away than I was anticipating. So let's loop around, get back on the highway, head the other way, and then we'll let you know when we dip down to 10%. This is really could not get better conditions than this test, which means it may actually go farther than the R1Ts just because of conditions, but it'll be in that region, I think. We'll find out. I have just selected the Rivian Adventure Network as our endpoint, and it is preparing the battery for fast charging, which is exactly why we wait till halfway to do this. And then it's going to try and cool the battery ahead of the charging session, which is also going to hurt efficiency a little bit, but very representative of a road trip when you're charger hopping. We're back up to speed at the end of the on-ramp, clicking up to 81. There we go. And cruising back. So it says we're going to get there with 47 miles, which is like 12 or 13%. By the way, why doesn't Rivian show this in percent? I don't know miles. Give me percent, or give me both. Should be pretty easy for them to do that, but I've been asking for it for so long and they still have not updated. Anyway, yeah, so the R1Ts did 85 miles. I think we're going to be plus or minus right around there. We'll find out. We are now at 11% state of charge, so I'll let you know when we dip down to 10 and what the final number will be, but just great conditions, great drive. 10% state of charge, 86.6 miles. So 1.6 miles better than the R1T, but again, I think we just had awesome conditions today, which led to maybe the R1S doing slightly better. But either way, let's get this back on the charger. We're almost back to where we started, right around the corner, and yeah, charge it up. Then I got to bring it back to Rivian. Well, there you guys go, 86.6 miles in the R1S Dual Max. I guess that's as expected. Very similar to the R1Ts, maybe slightly better conditions, but we're within the range of tolerance. And I would say, okay, not good enough. A Tesla Model Y, which has a very poor charging performance, does 100 miles in this test. Then Audi e-tron, both the pre-refresh and post-refresh, did like high 70 miles, so that's okay. I would say this is, 75 miles is basically minimum acceptability. 100 is good and pretty great for road tripping, I would say. And then like 120 plus is where we get into, yeah, that's a purpose-built road tripping vehicle. And I really think the Rivian is it excels in almost every other category except this. And the thing is, I see so many people, so many families going on trips in Rivian vehicles that this should be more of a priority. We've recently stopped by the Rivian Adventure Network site in Grand Junction, and it was completely full of Rivians towing with bikes and other crap on it, just full of adventure items, and these vehicles will not be the fastest adventure. If you're not in a rush and your family takes time to charge and you're okay with 40, 45 minute, hour-long charging sessions for deep charges, this can work. However, for my lifestyle, for the way I like to drive and the way many of our audience are used to driving, this is going to be a much slower road trip than even if you have a Tesla Model Y, and especially if you have a Tesla Model X. The Model X did 120 plus miles in this test, and this did, well under 90 miles. That's a huge disparity. Anyway, thanks so much for watching this Out of Spec Reviews 10% challenge. I hope for some improvements with Gen 2 Rivian. We'll certainly be testing it as soon as possible. So stay tuned. See you on another one again soon. Bye-bye. Dang, well, I just wanted to show you guys, I arrived to this charging session and look at that, 208 kilowatts. The Rivian was not able to precondition all the way, which means we arrived with a hotter battery pack than it requires or requested for the initial charging session, and we're actually getting a better charging session this time around than the first, which is interesting. And so I imagine that its normal preconditioning target of mid 70 degree Fahrenheit is it's expecting a deep charge, really deep in the battery pack to avoid overheating. But for the 15-minute top up, it actually kind of makes sense to arrive with a little bit warmer battery pack. You can see we've put in 1 kilowatt hour more than before in the same time period. So I think that's pretty impressive. And here we are again doing 209 kilowatts, and we've put in 2 more kilowatt hours. So it's a little bit interesting because this testing procedure is to get the vehicle to the charger with the temperature it wants for DC fast charging. But if you're just doing a quick top up, a warmer battery pack, which might lead to an earlier thermal derate later in the charging session, but for a 15-minute charge may be to the benefit. Because I just, we're 15 minutes into this second session and we've put in, just ticked from 46 to 47 kilowatt hours, and we did 44 on the first one. So 2 whole more kilowatt hours with a warmer battery pack on arrival. So pretty interesting, to say the least. It would have done 4 more miles in the test. It would have been about 89, 90 miles if we had this charging session instead of the 86. Pretty cool.